Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast live from Mexico City, where we've been received with a warm welcome at Mercado Libre's local office. And I'm accompanied by no other than Alejandra Restrepo, who's the director of Mercado Ads Mexico at Mercado Libre. Thanks for the warm welcome, Alejandra.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Daniel.
And we were supposed to meet in Las Vegas, but I think we've done an upgrade by meeting in Mexico City, which you mentioned to me that you really like Barcelona, but I have to admit that I really like Mexico City as well.
Yeah, so thank you so much for making it happen. So fortunately, I wasn't able to attend the grocery shop at Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure I missed a lot of nice things that are happening in the industry, but sometimes you can make it. And so thank you so much for making it here. You are more than welcome here in Mexico City.
No, I appreciate it. And I hadn't, the last time I was here was in 2021, and it was during a bit like the lockdowns and so on. So I've noticed it much more lively this time than last time, like for the good and the bad, because there's also a lot more cars and it takes ages to get anywhere. But it's a very lively city, so...
Yeah, actually, I'm not Mexican. I'm Colombian and Spanish. I told you that. And I've been living in Mexico for a year. So I used to have a team here in the past for many years, like for 4 years before that I had a regional role. And I used to have teams in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and China. And I took this kind of like general manager director role for Mexico a year ago. And actually, this is a great city to live. It's kind of like really vibrant city. And you see how it evolves even kind of like on a monthly basis.
Really?
You can see the changes in the city. There's a kind of like a very large expat community. And I think locals are really warm with people who lives here.
Yeah, it's a great country with a great... Like, one thing that surprised me when I first came is like how strong the local culture is. Like, you can see like the heritage of like the pre-colonialism after it's like created like a very strong and special culture, which the Mexicans are very proud of as well. So...
Yeah, we're approaching Dia de los Muertos that I think became very famous thanks to Hollywood. But Dia de los Muertos, I think I love it because it has kind of like a really this spiritual beliefs of the locals that for most of the people is a very different way to look at how death and the spiritual part kind of like works. It's amazing. So you can even imagine how it is really lived on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
super
really
unique.
like that.
It's super unique to Mexico. I think this like the culture around death and so on. I don't think, you have other cultures around that, but like the way that it's lived here is like unlike no other country, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So now you're at Mercado Libre, but I'm curious to know like a bit about your career background. Obviously, I had a look at your LinkedIn profile. I know that you were in McKinsey for a long time, no?
Yes, I worked in McKinsey for almost 13 years. So I joined the first Bogota office very young, like as a senior analyst or business analyst. And I ended up then I moved to the San Francisco office where I was part of the McKinsey Global Institute, leading efforts on city development. I was pretty passionate about economic development and also the way that we can help people, particularly in Latin America, but also worldwide, to really kind of like have a better life. I was growing up in a family that always told me kind of like, even if you are not rich, you are privileged.
Yeah.
And we tend to compare ourselves with people who has more than us. We never compare with those that doesn't have what we have. And I grew up with this idea that, I can go to university, that I can attend an MBA, like I can do many things in my life. Women in most of the regions in the world can do those things. I'm a civil engineer, so my background is also quite different. So it's kind of like, I really believe I needed to do it. So I had the chance in the Bogota office to start doing some economic development projects with the government back in 28, some sort of that. Then I moved to San Francisco and I lived there for a year. And I led this kind of like global efforts and research regarding cities development.
Yeah.
And back by that time, the office manager of the Bogota called me and told me, Alejandra, you are the most senior woman in the office. And I was not even 30 or almost in 30. So I was like, oh my goodness, we are pretty bad. So, and he said, what would you like to do in the next 6 months? So for those that doesn't know, in consultancy, the evaluation period is each 6 months and it's an up or out model.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I told him probably in 6 months, I'm not going to be here. I like to become a mom and I'm not sure if the mother role that I was envisioned can like be combined with McKinsey.
Yeah.
Back in those days was more difficult. I think in these days the consultancy firms has also evolved in that way. And he called me back and said, you know what? I have just called Nicola Calicchio, was the Latin American regional leader. And the person who was talking to me was Andres Cadena. It was a very nice guy. He's one of the most senior partners in McKinsey, I think, today even. And he said, Ale, what would you think if you come back to Latin America and we set up the public and social sector practice together?
Wow.
I'm not sure what will be the name of your role, but let's be my partner on this. And I said, okay, we don't have nothing to lose. Probably it will be only 6 months. It was almost 7 years. And I set up the whole practice in the region. We create a dedicated go-to-market kind of like strategy for Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and Colombia. It was amazing. And I managed to have not only kind of like the business unit leader, like to manage that business unit with partners in the region, but also I had the chance to kind of like become an expert in economic development and help to shape some of the agenda of what was kind of like the main thinking in the region regarding giving opportunities.
Are there any projects that you're like especially one project that you're especially proud of the ones that you did back then?
Oh, I think we did something in Mexico that was education for employment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lovely because I was less involved in the daily base of the project, but more in the back end.
Your McKinsey.
Yeah, but it was great because it was taught on how can we partner with companies to make sure that we create short-term programs to kind of like give education, but education focus on specific tasks that or offices that this is Spanglish, but let's say particularly roles that could be trained in short term and that they will have in shortage of those kind of like profiles. And we were connecting young people that was looking for unemployment or were really eager to be kind of like educated in a certain way. So we connect those roles. We create a program, really the education program. So we connected people with companies. And that was amazing because you increase employment, but also you give opportunity for people who couldn't afford an university or it was difficult for them to be on a program that was pretty long term. And education for employment already exists this year today in Mexico.
Nice.
With some universities here. And I think that passion and creating something bigger kind of like was what kind of like invited me to join Meli. Mercado Libre, or Meli as we call it in the short name. Its vision is to democratize commerce and payments in Latin America. So if you think in Latin America, the democratization of commerce, it's something that is not minor. We have one of the poorest infrastructure in the world. It's been evolving, but back 20 years ago was really poor. And if you were in a small city, not connected to the big kind of like economic centers, it was pretty difficult for you to grow a business or to sell a product. And basically, if you see the full idea of Mercado Libre is how can we connect those people and give them the opportunity to access to the demand in large centers without moving them to those places. So when Mercado Libre come to my door, I thought, okay, this might be another way really to
drive impact and
to drive impact in the region.
I wanted to ask you because like moving from consulting to the industry is quite a big one. Even more in your case, in which you spent 13 years in McKinsey. What was the key factor for you to make that move? Because it was really like going out of your comfort zone ultimately.
Yeah. So I after doing all this kind of like classic McKinsey consultancy, moving to that practice and having impact, I was thinking that I wanted to be in somewhere that I was more in the kind of like not in the back end, but in the front end of the action and taking and doing things that would really have impact. Of course, moving to the public sector would be a kind of like a more obvious option. But I think public sector or the government itself might have some boundaries of what can be done. And that's why sometimes it takes so much time for them to change or to transform an economy. While you are in the private sector, you are more agile on what you were doing. So when I joined Mercado Libre, I first joined in the CX team, and I was leading the seller experience team. I was in charge of a team of 650 people. It was kind of like a completely different change, and was exactly where I needed to be in place to see these very, very young people who wanted to join kind of like one of the largest companies in Latin America, today the largest, but 7 years ago was making just the list.
To put things in perspective, well, for one, you're the number one e-commerce player in Latin America. And you said you're the largest company in Latin America?
I think today in value, we are the largest company in Latin America. Today we have 100,000 employees in the region. I'm just going to give you an idea. 7 years ago when I joined Mercado Libre, we were like 7,000 employees in total. 7,000, and I'm really 7 with 3 zeros.
Yeah.
And today we're 100,000 employees in the region.
Oh my God.
7-year time frame. And actually, if you see kind of like working at Mercado Libre, I think is the best decision that I have ever made. It have helped me to see really from the front line how you can really impact kind of like people's life.
Yeah.
Because it's not only the sellers or the buyers, it's also all the employees and the workforce that we have and how we're transforming the way we kind of like attract and develop the best talent in the region, how you can give opportunities for the young people in the CX team is pretty obvious, or when you are in the fulfillment centers. And definitely for me has been quite of an experience. And 5 years ago, I decided to move to the advertising business. That's where
well timed, by the way, because in the last 5 years we've seen pretty significant boom of this business across the board.
Yes. So I joined Mercado Ads, that is the business unit within Mercado Libre, who is in charge of advertising. So basically, it's the ad tech company within Mercado Libre. We born as a retail media, and we are now one of the 3 more relevant or the largest media companies in Latin America. I'm going to talk later about some news that we have, but we've been evolving
and
pretty
good
fast.
To clarify also, we're not talking about like one of the top 3 retail media.
No, media company.
Media.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. We're the largest retail media in the region. We are one of the top 3 media companies, digital media companies in the region. That is not minor.
It is not. And now, so you did a role in Colombia. Now you're managing the whole retail media business for Mexico, right?
Yes. So actually, how it evolved, 2020 was a particular year for all of us in the world. Nah? So I was in Colombia, and my first role when I joined Mercado Libre was also regional. So I was in charge of seller experience for Spanish-speaking countries in a very large transformation program that we were calling Sustainable Growth, where we were actually thinking on how to partner with some BPOs to kind of like increase the reach that we were having for the services for both sellers and buyers across the region, including Brazil. So, long story short, the vice president of Mercado Ads by that time was really trying to kind of like create an ad tech company that was large enough for what was kind of like the next movement of Mercado Libre. And he called me and said, everyone has suggested that you might be ready for this challenge. So I need to set up a completely new team to be the commercial force for the top sellers. Top sellers are those three-party, very large kind of like partners and sellers that we have across Latin America. At the beginning, we were thinking that I was going to move either to Mexico or Brazil, but the pandemic was there. So basically, I was working from Colombia, from a small city, that's where I come from, and I was leading a team in Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and also in China. I'd set up our advertising team in China because Mercado Libre has an office in China. And we have an office in Shanghai, another in Shenzhen.
Well,
Shenzhen, I never pronounce it well. Shenzhen,
it's some
I think.
debate.
Yeah, it's some debate on how to pronounce it well. So be patient with me. And basically, the idea was how can we be prepared to help our third-party partners to have the right tools to use advertising in Mercado Libre to grow their businesses. And I set it up from scratch, and we ended up being very relevant in the business unit. And a year ago, we changed a little bit how we do the business. So we created a top advertisers business unit, which actually was not only taking care of the sellers, but also top brands, like very large brands, first-party or third-party brands, and also working with agencies in the region. And we decided to split the region. So we have, my peers are one in Brazil, one who is in Argentina and takes care of, let's say, Spanish-speaking countries without Mexico, and I'm taking care of Mexico.
And how have you found Mexico in terms of like, what is the like the e-commerce scene in Mexico, like e-commerce / retail media?
I think like Mexico, for me, it's like obviously the second largest economy in Latin America. That's very obvious. But when you think in terms of maturity of the market and sophistication, for me, in terms of retail media particularly, this is one of the most sophisticated market in the region. I used to have China, and for me, China is the like kind of like on top of like best class in the world. Probably then you have seen US probably, and then like when you compare Latin America, for me, Mexico, it's really kind of like one step ahead of the rest of the markets. And I think it's probably because our proximity, like we are so close to the US, that probably you are more connected with what's happening there. But also I think marketers here are very kind of like open-minded on trying new things. So that's why we're actually also moving in that way. This week on October 1st was our Break the Tape event that actually was aiming to, the first one actually in Latin America was here in Mexico. We announced that we are going to partner with new partnerships, one with Roku and with HBO Max, to enhance our kind of like offer in terms of connected TV in the region, but also we're having a new kind of like announcements on our intelligence hub and everything that we are doing with AI and with data to really become kind of like the best class provider for media, not only for retail media, but let's say the retail media 2.0 version of it across the region. And we started in Mexico because we see definitely in Mexico, people is like advertisers, let's say, and CMOs are really eager to innovate, to try new things. And we're at the age of those kind of like.
And what will that look like for a brand that works with you guys? The fact that you can not only advertise on your own platform, but on HBO and so on?
Actually, this year, we already launched extended inventory. So we have a partnership with Google as well. So we are able to kind of like we're becoming a media, basically complete media, not only on platform but also off platform.
Mhm.
So the idea is that our value proposition is based on our first party data and our unique audiences. So we have kind of like the Mercado Libre's ecosystem. We haven't talked about it, but if you think on Mercado Libre, it's the largest e-commerce in Latin America.
Mhm.
We also have our fintech, that is Mercado Pago, and we have our own entertainment with this Mercado Play, which is an AVOD. No, it's a free platform that you can see different content.
So like HBO or Netflix or one of these.
Yeah, but it's free.
Okay.
So basically, it's free, and also you can have it. You can connect using your devices or in the TV, for example, in Samsung, LG, you can find Meli Play there, and you can just watch there. So if you think on this ecosystem, we have a rich amount of information to have first party data and to create audiences that allow us like differentiate out from the rest of the ecosystem in Latin America, because we also have information in terms of payments, where people is paying, how they are paying, the type of kind of like payment methods that they are using with Mercado
Which is a lot
Pago.
it's huge information as well about people's behavioral patterns and so on.
And then you have like the e-commerce information, which is much more on what people is looking for, what they are considering, the search patterns, the buying patterns. And then we have also the content, so we can connect the whole ecosystem. And with that, we have kind of like curated audiences that allow us to kind of like be present on platform, on off platform with Google. So we can have online video. So you might be reading a newspaper, and the online video will allow us to have this format. You can be with connected TV and Roku. Roku is very relevant here in Mexico. So basically, you can be in Roku or in HBO. We also have Disney Plus and Meli Play. So we have all this standard inventory as a whole that will allow us to reach the right audience at the right moment, but also to measure what you are doing. So basically, if you think, and this is something that you've been probably hearing a lot in the industry and from CMOs, we are always in this kind of like, let's say, taking the trade-off between awareness and everything that it's conversion, right? So everyone who was more in the old days of the advertising and marketing was really thinking on, I need to look for the right audiences. I need to go for reach and frequency. And probably I would like to measure brand recognition, brand love, like something like that.
The TBS, the billboards, etc.
Etc. And then you have the others that were much more focused on, I really need to convert. Then you are somewhere in the middle where you are trying to measure the results of what you are investing, or every dollar that you're investing in advertising. And you would like to connect those worlds, but you don't know how to do it. And you either kind of like go for one or the other. That is the trade-off that I'm mentioning. And basically what we are offering now, it's not a trade-off.
An or, but it's an end. Really.
It's an end, exactly. And what we can offer an advertiser or a CMO or a small seller is, particularly for brands also, it's if you really would like to invest in those, you can have both worlds, and we can measure the conversion path and the results that you are going to have through that way. So,
and when you speak with, I guess you're in conversations with brands pretty often. I think probably consumer electronics must be big for you. Consumer goods. I don't know if fashion as well. Even what kind of like reactions do you see from like the marketing people, the sales people? Because what I've heard a lot is that retail media is being pretty good at getting sales money, trade spin, but not as good as getting CMO brand money.
I think CMO world, it's been taken lately. And I spent a lot of time with my also marketing colleagues. So Sean, Juan Lavista, Florencia Baumeule here in Mexico, who leads marketing in Mexico. And they also feel this pressure of how to measure with data, what's the right way to do it. And I also spent a lot of time, of course, with my clients and the CMOs, and I try to understand their needs. And I think based on those needs is where we are coming with this idea of being smarter, not harder. So how you can take smart decisions to, instead of having the trade-off between the two worlds, we actually put in place of the solution so you can definitely reach your branding objectives, and at the same time being able to measure everything up to the consideration, to the sale, so you can have it. I think, and I probably you have read of this article that says, like, I think it was in Forbes, CMOs are kind of like, it's the role who has more pressure today from the CFO perspective. Because I actually now, like everyone in the new economy, it's also thinking on, no, let me know what you are doing with that amount of money.
Yeah, like what now you can close. The closed loop is something that you're offering. And it's interesting that you say like what you're offering is kind of like adapting to like what the CMOs need, no? Because they're getting demands of like, what are you doing with your money you're spending on campaigns, no?
Yes.
I always say it like whenever on the podcast we interview somebody from marketing, which is something that I've actively tried to do more and more, is like I don't think there's been a better and worse time to be a marketing leader because it's just like fascinating but also very challenging.
Yes, of course. And actually, if you go to CPG, like of all the CPGs of the world, and they are saying kind of like we are kind of like a huge dinosaur because we were much more bigger. We know all the digital world is moving there, and we're thinking on how to kind of like adapt faster to really kind of like of this new reality. And what I have seen kind of like, actually this week I have 2 meetings with relevant CMOs in very large CPGs in Latin America. And both of them were telling me we're starting to move kind of like in that direction. So some of them are creating, for example, media teams who are embedding kind of like all the retail media part. And basically what they said is all the guys who are much more in commerce or who takes care of digital commerce and the sales as a channel, they don't know anything about how to buy how to buy media.
Yeah.
So in the day-to-day, they are coming back to us, like, I don't know, like this retail media is telling me this, is that okay or not? So they are really engaged in the media part, the media part being much more kind of like involved and accountable and probably responsible for the media buying process, even if it is a retail media, and connect also the sales part at the end. So it's kind of like they are really kind of like trying to start to balance what we are seeing. At least I have seen in 1 or 2 companies, very large CPGs in the world. And I think probably more the world is going to move in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the reason why the brands have also, why the retail media has had such a boom in the last 5 years is because it's been a retailer's proposition, but brands have really bought into it, right? And they're also very interested, I think, mainly because of the data piece, no, and the closed loop. And that obviously has it's just been a huge transformation on the retailer's business. But I think the retailer's business have created like a retail media business. They have to see how they integrate that. But like for consumer goods, it just changes the whole dynamic between sales, marketing, media hugely. Yes. And I think that marketing had been like I think that a lot of growth in consumer goods had come from commercial developments, like selling more, developing trade marketing plans, eCommerce is a new channel, etc. And marketing had kind of been in the background doing a bit the same thing. And now it's been like, whoop, looking at marketing and see what they're actually contributing, no?
Yeah, actually, if you see the figures, I think it's expected that this year, retail media in CTV, like if you think like all the digital and new trends, CTV, for example, is going to be bigger. The spend in the US is going to be bigger than the traditional TV spending in advertising.
Wow.
That's a huge milestone. So it's kind of like, this is a moment where you see like we're reaching a tipping point. So we're really moving direction of where the industry is going on. And also I think the advancement of new technology is helping us, or is giving a boost, let's say, to all of us to move faster. So AI, data, everything that we have, AI and creativity, it's other kind of like window. On Wednesday, actually, we launched our new campaign. It's called Race. And we did it with GAT. GAT is our creative agency for Mercado Libre.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a campaign that it's 100% made with AI. And actually it's aimed to tell a story of for marketers on how to smarter invest in advertising. No?
Mm-hmm.
So how to take decisions, use data, use all the capabilities that we have, and definitely make sure that you are considering those information to take the right decision along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and having this balance between branding and sales at the end, using all the offering that we have, like the Intelligence Hub and so on and so forth. And I think it's huge, because if you think on God and creativity, kind of like, I think that they have been awarded as one of the best agencies in the world. And then they are really connect with us to, let's do something just 100% with AI. Sends a signal as well.
What do you think is the benefit of doing creative with AI?
I think that may be a debate about it, but I think for me, it's time. So most of the marketers and the CMOs, and even for me on a daily basis, we have those moments where we need to react pretty quick to something that is happening in your market, and the time frame to react is really short. Actually, with technology today, you might have something that became kind of like a new way for your customers, and you need to react as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I think AI allow you to still have the creative mind, because it needs to have someone that is giving you the idea, the thought, the storyline, what you would like to do, and to respond pretty faster, let's say, for those things that you need to do it. So I think that's where it lays. AI, I think it's we're just scratching the surface, no? So there will be another things there. I think we shouldn't be afraid. We should embrace it. And I think AI, if you think in terms of optimization of advertising, optimization of creativity, taking decisions faster or smarter, will allow us to take the best out of technology. No?
And when you think about like the retail media business, we talked about like how it's transformed the brand, but also on your side, how do you envision like the relationship, especially now that you're going more like even more towards media, with the actual like the relationship between the ads business and the regular retail business? Because that's also an interesting dynamic. And you hear so many schools of thought, right? Because there's some people that say should be completely separate. There's some people that say, oh, it should follow the interests of the retail side. So
I love the idea, because we're in this debate always. So if I'm going to simplify, I imagine they both need to be one with the other, because we are pretty relevant because of the muscle that we have as the largest e-commerce in the region. And that power is the one that gives you 140 million clients that we have in the region. So if you think in terms of Latin America, 140 million is like the second largest country right after Brazil. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because if you think of that, 140 million people that it's our clients, and we can create audiences with that, no one else could do it. And we have that because we are the largest e-commerce, because our Mercado Pago ecosystem as well. So we cannot divorce the two businesses. I think one kind of like is embedded in the other. And for me, as I said, let's imagine that like in a simple way, it's like there's a first version of retail media version 1.0. And it's let's go how you can grow your business within an e-commerce. And that solution serves for a seller who is just a small seller, an MSMB company, or a very large brand. And then you have the new solutions that is the retail media 2.0. And that retail media 2.0 actually has the same base solutions of this, but can allow you to reach this additional. But this is still, it's at the base, at the core. And probably, I'm not sure, probably there will be a 3.0 that it's coming.
I think we can take it for granted that at some point it will come, right?
Yeah, but I think if you think on divorce in both worlds, it's where you are thinking on the trade-offs, again, as the beginning. And probably it's not a trade-off, it's an and. as we were saying.
Yeah.
And if it is an ad and you have this on top of it, actually what you see is a larger kind of like pie from the advertising perspective.
Mhm.
It's a larger set of solutions and audiences from the advertiser perspective. And I think if you combine those worlds, you can have better results.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that's fascinating about you guys is that there's very few companies on the customer facing side, like on the retail side, that are so like that cover the whole region of Latin America. Because then like you go to the supermarket side and a lot of it is very local. Like you feel, I think even like when you think of like airline flights and so on, the region is kind of not as, if you compare it to the European Union or obviously to the United States, the cohesion is difficult to find. I think that you can find that as well through Mercado Libre.
Yes, I think we are a Latin company for Latins, and I think that's very difficult to replicate because we understand the cultural nuances that you have. And also we have this kind of like superpower of kind of like understanding the regional and going local at the same time. And with that also have the small creativity for each one of the powers that like the special markets or particularly locations that we would like to reach. I think also talking about like the 2.0 version of it, if you think about it, we also have one of the most, I think, a strong marketing teams in the region. Again, because we have a regional also coherence, as you mentioned. And that marketing muscle, it's also able to be kind of to work in partnership or to serve us to help our brands to connect with Latin America as well. So I think if you think in all of this as kind of like our superpowers, let's say, it's kind of like a beneficial for everyone who wants to work across Latam or who just want to learn more about the Latin market.
Yeah, but it's not only like that you can sell in Latin America and market yourself across Latin America, but also that you can get the data back of like the different markets and so on, which I think can be very powerful. I wanted to ask you, like, from what you've seen, especially like for the listeners that we have that work in international brands, maybe in a global role and so on, do you have like a personal point of view of why Latin America is a good place to invest for a consumer brand?
Oh, I love it. I love that question. I think Latin America is still a region who has a lot of young population. We're getting older like the rest of the world, but
people
not,
are having less kids and so on. We've seen that before.
We've seen that before. But we are still not in the place where the region as a whole is old. And I think young population will always give an opportunity to introduce new products, to innovate, to move forward. And at the same time, if you think on a more mature population, we still have a population that is mature, that has a middle class that is eager to invest, to consume, and to grow. And I think that's a very nice opportunity for companies because we're still, let's say, in the Middle Ages. So we have population who wants to try things, who is interested on new products, who might be eager to find, for example, even from a luxury perspective, you will have a market that might be growing and you can have a stable market more for the middle class and the, let's say, lower class that is growing and would like to try new products. So from a consumer good company perspective, I think Latam is still a market that is able to be, let's say, I'm
that is like worth investing in, basically.
Worth investing, yeah.
And worth having like a strategic priority thing, and probably even as a testing ground for certain things, for certain demographics. What are you personally excited about for the business and I guess inherently for yourself in the next year?
In the next year, actually, I love innovation. So if you think on when we started and I was telling you a little bit of what I love the most, I love to innovate and to create things and from scratch or to start new things. And I think we are starting a new era of retail media And I'm super kind of like fascinated of being part of that new era, to really understand how our kind of like all the tools that we just launched will definitely work, and to have the feedback also loop on in the market to continue growing and innovating, and being part, probably not only for the second wave of virtual media, but if there will be a third, being there as well.
You need to be there. You need to be there. I don't think it's going to get any less exciting. And also, I meant to ask you at the beginning, we'll ask you now about, like, from a leadership perspective, you went from McKinsey, which is normally a lot of brain work, but a lot of like individual contributor work. And then you went to Mercado Libre, and you mentioned that your first role was managing 300 people.
650.
Oh my God. And now you're also managing people. I think that when you move to the industry side, to the retail consumer side, it's also the brain work, but it's also a lot of people work. How have you personally worked on it, developed, and so on, to be able to consistently be effective leading people?
Well, I love this question, because leadership at Mercado Libre, I think, is something as relevant as anything else that we do. And as leaders, I think for me, the first one that is super important is lead by example. I couldn't expect someone to do something that I won't do it, or not doing it on my daily basis. I also think that we need to be kind of like, let's say, not selfish, but really constructive, and breaking down silos to understand what's happening with the marketplace team, with the Mercado Pago, and really thinking on how to construct something bigger and set up something that it's made for me.
It's not only thinking in your small box, but thinking like, how will this decision in my role impact the whole business, no?
Exactly. And also, I think you need to really think that each one of the people that you have in your team are individuals.
Yeah.
So you need to balance that individual perspective and create a career growth, a path, and make sure that you are also there for them to take the right decisions along the way. So I do believe that a good leader is someone that creates teams that can survive without him or her, in my case, but also it's someone that it's able to create a team that it's going to be able to lead other teams in Mercado Libre. So, and it goes connected to breaking down silos. So I do believe that this is perspective of a whole ecosystem and how you can contribute with it. It's much more relevant than the individual perspective.
Well, you come from McKinsey, which is a very tough place to get into, very selective. I guess that you also have to be selective here when you hire, no? Because what you mentioned are great things, but to find the people that can embody this culture is not easy, no? So it must be a challenge, like, or you have to be selective when you interview people to bring them into the team, no?
Yes, when we interview people here in Arnelli, we try to measure both sides, and we call it kind of like, of course, kind of like all the basic skills that are more kind of like related with what you're going to do, and also we call it cultural fit. So we have a strong DNA. We embrace taking risks. We embrace people who is always on a continuous beta mindset. It means that you need to make sure that you never believe that you are in the best version of whatever you are doing. And that's not easy, because, for example, if you think, I've been thinking, and probably there will be another way, and there will be more things that we need to be thinking. You need to have leaders that also execute with excellence. And that's not something minor. You might have great ideas. You might kind of like think that there's a beta continuous, but you need to make sure that whatever you are executing, you execute with excellence. Exactly. People who, I'm trying to translate it, but it's kind of like, give the best, and it's happy at the moment. So you might be going to the last mile, but if you are all the time kind of like being cranky because you are giving the last mile, this is probably not your place. But if you're giving the last mile and you are happy because you are constructing something, makes sense.
It's kind of enjoying not only the result, but also like the process, no? Like enjoying the journey. It's like for me, when I go on holidays, I like to like rent a car and do a road trip and like see beautiful things on the way to the final destination. No, I think it may be a bit like that.
Exactly. And also we have the client also always at the core. So if you think a little bit of what we are saying about retail media, I mentioned a lot like, this is what I heard from the CMOs. This is what I do. I think they need. And we kind of like convert all these needs in something that it's meaningful when we think on the product. And that's not an easy one, because on a daily basis, sometimes you need to balance and to have trade-offs between what it's more relevant for the company, for the customer. We will always prioritize the client at the core, because it's in the mid and long term more sustainable.
Yeah.
And if the team is always aligned with those kind of like points, we'll definitely make sure that we're going to create the right environment. And for me, that's very, very, very relevant.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, and it's interesting because it's the first time, and I've interviewed a lot of people on retail media, that the fact that you mentioned how you really hear to what the brands need and build from there, and it just makes a lot of sense as well. I mean, of course, you're not going to do just what one person tells you and just implement it, although that may be tempting sometimes, but it's just like, if you hear consistent feedback, it's like kind of getting ahead of the industry based on that. I have this one question I ask everyone on this podcast, which is, if you went back to yourself when you were starting your career and you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I love that question, and I've been thinking on it, because
Hard to choose only one.
I heard your podcast. Yeah, I heard to choose only one. When I was pretty young, I was having this idea that I was running out of time. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So I graduated from university almost at 20s. And I decided to do kind of like my thesis before everyone else, because I think I really needed to do rapidly. I worked when I was at university, because I really needed to gain experience. That was my idea. And I was always kind of like running across a clock that I was me who was putting that. And I think I will tell my younger self, enjoy the journey. And I actually think it goes a little bit from what we were actually saying. And sometimes when we are young, we are just looking at the CEO or the CMO, and we really would like to become them. And we think that we need to be on a rush with ourselves. And we lose a lot of small moments in life that are much more relevant and will kind of like build you as a better person, a better professional, a stronger kind of like, I don't like mentor, let's say, in life. And probably taking that time to make sure that you are taking the decision, and not because you are running out of time, but because it meant something for you, and enjoy that journey, enjoy the mistakes, because in life we take a lot of mistakes also, and it will help you a lot.
No, that's fantastic. And what would life be without mistakes, right? I think that the mistakes is, I think, a lot of the difference between one type of people and the other, just to generalize a little bit, is how you learn from mistakes and how you understand them, and sometimes even putting them on you, right? Like, because sometimes it could be easy to blame them on another factor, an external factor, someone else. I think that the way that we manage them and try to like learn from them, even if we know it's not our main fault, but what could have we done better? And that's like a key in work, and definitely in life, no? So really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's super exciting how you guys are, I don't know, you just have a unique point of view on business in general. How, like, for the ads business, you're really seeing it as like a full media proposition, which, as we were saying, it goes really in line with what brands are asking for, which is brand awareness, brand performance, and data, right? I think that that's what they're asking for. And yeah, I think that your journey has also been very unique, going from McKinsey, but doing very different things related to development and related to something that was very dear to your heart, to then transitioning into a business of managing 650 people. And now, very excited to what's to come for your business here in Mexico, and also for your career. So it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as well.
Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG Guys. Have a great day.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Dwyer Partners SL, doing business as the FMCG Guys, or the individual author, host, or guests, nor is it intended to be a